Good evening, everyone. Hey, listen, tell little man we said hi. Little man, we said hi. We understand. We understand the babies, right? Good evening, everyone. Sandra Sheffer, host of Racing the Races. As I told y'all from an episode yesterday, that on Thursdays we're going to come and try to talk a little bit about immigration, inform the community about things that they should know, things that they can do. I'm going to let Dr. Blamure introduce herself. And then afterwards, we're going to do a moment of silence for what happened at Florida State today. So we're going to let Dr. Bloomer introduce herself. We're going to talk, and then we're going to take a moment of silence and respect to the folks what happened in Florida State and some, anyone who lost someone recently.
I think it's just fair, right, that we do the moment of silence first because it's just unbelievable what's happening in the world and in the state of Florida.
All right, so we're going to take a moment of silence, and then we'll, come back on. Okay, everyone. Okay. Yeah. So it's just we can't start to show it out, showing our support. And I'm not going to say those words that people are sick of hearing when it's related to gun violence, but we all by now should know that there was an unfortunate incident that happened at Florida State University in Tallahassee today. I do have friends who have college-age children that are in school, and from what I've heard, at least all the people that I know that are okay. But the last I checked, and 2 people had succumbed to their injuries as a result of what happened. And I believe it was a total of 7 that were initially hurt. So I hope there's no one else lost their life. And, I feel for the parents who sent their children to school and they have to hear this unfortunate news today.
It is. It is. And, I think the biggest concern is not the fact that this is happening in our capital, in the state capital, but also this is a young man who had access to firearm. This is a young man who has been given, because of who his parents are, they've been given training. So this is a young man who should have known better. And nevertheless, we don't know why. No, we don't know what happened. We don't know if there was any mental illness there, because they haven't shared much other than the fact that this young man, one of his parents, was the deputy sheriff. And so this is really disturbing that a child who have been given that level of training and understanding, and for him to do something like that. So, everyone who knows me know, first and foremost, I'm a minister. Above all else, I put the Lord Jesus Christ first, and prayer is something that I live on. I run on. Everything that I am, everything that I do is based on the prayers that my mother, my grandmother laid the foundation for, and as an adult, the prayers that I have prayed for myself. And so this evening, we pray for the state of Florida. We pray for the 2 people who lost their life. We pray for their families and the students who just experienced the whole thing play out. We pray for them, right? We pray for their mental state and for God to give them the grace to overcome that experience.
Yeah, it is. It is very unfortunate. And again, there were so many places that we, always wanted to consider to be safe spaces, to go. You're in an institution of higher learning, and you would think it would be a safe space, but more and more we're starting to see that it's not. And then this is one of those times again that I believe the conversation about what we're going to do about gun reform and gun violence and all of that it's going to come to the forefront. But this really is something that we need to consider and figure out what we need to do. And even the people who are advocates saying that people should be able to have their weapons, one of the things that if that is their position, we at least have to not ignore the fact that we have people that are dealing with a lot of stressors. We have people that have mental illness. We have people that don't have really good dispute resolution skills. So if you're not going to address the issue on the front of like limiting the access of weapons to people or limiting the amount of bullets or something that they can buy, you at least need to say, okay, well, what can we do to, make people, give them more coping skills, have more programs where people can in fact, learn dispute resolution, or people can get the mental illness support that they may need. So yeah, we need to do something. We can't just ignore it and not address the issue, at least on some front. If you're like, nope, I want people to have all of their guns, then we need to give people more tools instead of less, more tools on how to adjust to what's going on. So that's all I can say. Again, I don't want to use those words that I know parents don't want to hear, because I'm telling you, if it's my kid, listen, I don't know what my reaction would be. I don't think it would be a pleasant one. So I totally understand that we wanted to give respect and, and let those parents, those moms, them dads, and all those people know, their friends, family, that we understand and we sympathize. And again, to the students, as Dr. Blamur said, now they have an experience that they're never going to forget, and they'll be forever. This will forever be part of their DNA. I'm living through this traumatic experience, so we really feel for them.
Amen.
Yeah. So yeah. Amen. And and it's just like, and we try to, I try, one of the things I try to do is, like, when I'm having conversations, and particularly even when I'm talking about really serious issues, I try to find some humor and levity in it, because it's just so rough, right? Like, we just can't. I'm like, listen, you got to laugh to stop yourself from crying, because everything is just so crazy, right? And when we planned this show, like last week, we decided we're going to commit to coming on every Thursday, trying to give people as much information as we can about the immigration stuff. I had a whole list of, okay, we're going to talk about this because it's crazy, right? It's crazy in these streets. And then, like midday, we get this news, right? We get this news with all of what's already going on. We get this news, right? And again, like just like we said, we have to come with some sort of solution. We can't continue to ignore. And if you don't like one of the solution, be the change maker. Come up with something, some alternative. We have to address this in one form or fashion, one way or another. But to continue to do nothing is not going to be. It's not okay. It's not acceptable.
It really is not acceptable. And we see that these things are just graduating, right? Mm-hmm. For a while, it was not necessarily happening on university campuses, mm-hmm. right? If I could say that, yeah. It seemed as if it was our babies, mm-hmm. right? And now it's now on campuses. Yeah, so it's just graduating. And so, like you said,
so we did have the incident. So there was a college campus issue before. Remember Virginia Tech? I think Virginia Tech was, early 2000s. I don't remember exactly what year it is. So we did have an instance where a person went into a classroom, and that was also very tragic. I think over 30 people lost their lives in that particular instance. That individual did have some mental illness and everything going on. So we've had it happen, but I think it's been so long that it's been so long since that happened. But one of the other unfortunate things I think is happening too is that it's happening so much that people are like, oh yeah, another mass shooting, until it gets really close again, right? Because for one of the, and again, I'm always like, oh my God, I can't believe we're dealing with something else. However, in this particular instance, I personally know people whose children are at that school, right? I personally know people who live in Tallahassee, right? I personally know people who work at Florida State. So at this point, you're just like, listen, it's just closer to home. Not that we shouldn't care when it's not close to home, but it's really just getting closer and closer to home, and we all just are, too many of us are having this experience.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like as you stated, I don't necessarily feel like our electeds have done something to not have this happen.
Hmm.
Right? We've had a
Yeah.
lot of protests. We've had, and there's nothing wrong with protesting, but we've had a lot of protests. We've had a lot of press releases, and we've had a lot of press conferences. Nevertheless, there has never, up until this point,
Hmm.
we do not have something tangible to stop this from possibly taking place again.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, we something has to give. All right, so our other co-host is out and on backstage, and I'm about to bring her up. I think she's ready. I saw her adjusting the camera a little bit. Y'all can't see that. I can see that. I think she's ready, so I'm gonna add her to the stage. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are
Yeah.
you?
Well, we were talking a little bit about what happened in Florida State. So the moments have been just a little bit, just sad. And, we're, letting the families know that we feel what they're going through. So we just kind of spent that moment talking about that and haven't really gotten into the immigration. So I don't know if you want to say something before we transition, because the first part of the immigration topic that I will talk about is going to relate to college campuses, but I'll give you an opportunity to say anything if you want to.
So, I just think that right now our country needs a little bit more love and a little more unity. I feel like this is just a dark shadow of where we're at right now, where our climate is at. It breaks my heart. Students should be able to go to school to learn and not feel like they have to be fending for their lives. That maybe they'll get shot. Like I'm just sort of numb in a way to where we're at as a society. And I know that honestly, school shootings, mass shootings is or things like that, it's almost a norm for us now. But I think that we can just show it shows that our country needs a little bit more unity, needs a little bit more love. The last thing we need right now is any more division, because
Mhm.
I think that it's also contributing to all the anger and all the hate that we're seeing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And I just have to say, so there's a person that I know. And he's a person on the other, a Republican person that I have conversations with, because I speak to everybody about whatever, right? And he was sending me messages like, "Oh, this person hated Trump." I'm like, does it matter that the person supported Trump, hated Trump, whatever? Like, no one cares about that. Not in
It
this
doesn't
moment.
matter.
This whoever this was went on the campus and just kind of disrupted the lives of so many people, right? So who cares what their politics is in this instance? And in order for me not to engage too much, I basically said, listen, bro, it's bad people on both sides. And then I left that conversation right there where it is, right? Because it's just bad folks on both sides. And that's the end of that. Because this is not the time for us to get into no political debate about the
But
fact
that's what
that
I'm
people are just
saying.
traumatized today.
We lack unity, we lack love, we lack togetherness. It's like we always have to point a finger. This is not about pointing a finger, this is about
Mhm.
coming together. We need to stop all it's just really frustrating. It's really frustrating because the more that we sow more hate and division into our country, the more that we're going to see events like this happen.
And one of my colleagues just said that there were some students from MSD that were on campus today. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being someone who dealt with that, and then
What?
today to have to? It's a lot. There were some survivors of MSD that was on that campus today, having to experience this whole thing over again. It's
Well, I mean,
too much.
let's just be honest though. Um, there are students at FSU. It's not just if you went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. You have experienced gun violence in the streets, in other schools, at home. So there are students in every campus that have experienced gun violence that have to go to school and then experience gun violence again. There's
Again.
so many people that deal with gun violence every day, just everyday trauma, everyday life. School is where you're supposed to go and feel free to just learn and start finding out who you are in the world, not
Mhm.
the place where you go to wonder if you're going to make it out alive or not. Like,
Right.
that's not the place.
Exactly. And what I know about Florida State, y'all know that I'm a proud member of Gator Nation, and we're not talking division right here. I'm just saying, right, that what I've always known about Florida State was like the number one party school. Everybody went there and had a good time. And all the folks I know who graduated, they loved their institution. They have nothing but great things to say about it. And now they have this. And even though I'm a proud member of Gator Nation, UF has like a bad history because, and I think it was in the 90s, before I went there, they had like a serial killer on campus. So so that it's not that UF doesn't have a bad history that they had to live with. People were pulling their kids out of school because they didn't know there was someone that was doing that. So colleges, but everyone didn't have to necessarily deal with being on campus, being locked down in your dorms, or being locked down wherever you are, don't know what's happening outside, how long you're going to be there. That's a very more to me, that's a traumatic experience, and a whole bunch of people are living it, right? Because you don't know where this is, how long it's going. You're locked down, and what may have felt like days was probably just hours, right? So it's a different experience as opposed to someone who was targeting a certain type of person. Now, the parents who lost their kid, regardless of what the circumstance was, I know that the feeling is the same, right? But we've had that, but it was just, it just was different. This right here, I think there are things that can be done that we should not have. We shouldn't have to deal with this, right? But we're dealing with it. And I think that's what, for me, makes it even just more disappointing, is that we're continuing to deal with this, something that we don't have to. Even in a country that loves guns, there has to be a way that we can address this.
And I don't think loving or not loving guns is where it's at. I'm sure that there are plenty of other countries on the planet where individuals feel like they have the right to carry, but I'm sure they put processes in place to ensure that it does not get into the hands of those who are not going to be responsible and who could potentially take innocent lives.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even understand why is it I love guns, I don't love guns. It's neither here nor there, right? Okay, you want to carry, fine, right? Let's put some rules, let's put some checks in place, right, before you come into the power of owning one, so we can ensure that you owning one doesn't mean that my life is shortened.
Everybody got to be scared,
Listen,
Yeah.
I drive. I love driving. But in order for me to drive an 18-wheeler, I need to, number one, I got to go to a special school, and then I got to get a special license. So it's not that I can't drive. It's just that there's a process in place. If I want to drive an 18-wheeler, that's the process that's already in place.
Yeah. Yep. It takes more to do that than to own a weapon. How about that? But all right. So we were talking about college campuses, and I told you I was going to transition. So, and this is from the folks in Tallahassee, that some people sent them to do a job, and I didn't know that this was a job that they sent them to do. But there's this thing that's called 287G, where basically a certain percentage of each police department can take on some of the responsibilities of ICE, right? And some of the colleges in the state of Florida, and not only in Florida, other states too, have decided that they're going to participate in this project. And I know that the school that was in the news the more recently was FIU. FIU decided that they're going to deputize about 10% of their police force to be able to do some of ICE's responsibility, detain students, arrest them, and do act like ICE agents. And I'm just like, for real? So now you're not only going to school to worry about whatever, depending on who you are and what your immigration situation is, campus security may be they're gonna profile you and be like, you look like you ain't got no papers, right? And then you're gonna find yourself in ICE custody. What we doing? What we gonna do?
I stated this before on the previous show. I personally, Naomi Esther Blemire, does not have a problem with a president, a governor, or state official making sure that we know who lives here, we know how they came in, and we know whether or not they're doing right by the entrance that they gave them.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that we are on really uncharted territory and muddy waters when a place of higher learning becomes a ground for you to the grounds in which you conduct any type of investigation.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that that's where it's supposed to be done. Whether you want to do it or not, how you want to do it, you understand, that's all for debate. But at a university, first of all, originally we said we didn't want the individuals that committed crimes and violated their residency or violated their visa or what have you for being here. I don't believe that those people would be on campuses, like, getting knowledge, getting a degree so that they can better themselves and be a, a good citizen. I mean, I'm baffled. I'm
Those
baffled.
people would be in the streets. They'd be running the streets. They're
Yeah,
not saying, "Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I need to go to my sociology class."
I
Like the
just don't believe. Now, if you feel that you have individuals who are on our college campuses to learn of our ways so that they can potentially hurt us in the future, that's a different story, right? And that's a different narrative, and that's the whole different approach of how you identify those people and you get them out of our country. But on a college campus, I mean, I've done 4 years bachelor's, 2 years with the master's. I just don't see people on college campuses looking to bother nobody, but to get their degree and get their life together.
Yeah. Not enough for you to, deputize 10% of your force, or your resources to try to figure out who the illegals are on campus. Like, I mean, come on, like, right? Like, isn't it what you want? You want people to get educated. You want people to be able to contribute. This is what you want, right? But I kind of think that they don't want an educated society, right? Because that has to be the only explanation. You don't want an educated society at all, particularly, what they're doing with the Department of Education, how they're messing with curriculum, and they want to dictate what can be taught in schools. So I guess it's just an all-right attack on education, period, and they're just making them hostile environments where people don't want to be. Is like, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts,
I mean,
Christine? This is
what else
funny.
can you say? There's nothing else to say about that because, okay, and then, of course, there are certain things, activities that are happening on college campuses, especially in New York, that we do need to be concerned about. But when you're just throwing this blanket approach, right, to doing it, and you're not even focusing on the areas within the country where you do have issues on college campuses that you should be looking into, but it's just like everybody who is at a university right now should be concerned if they don't are scared, and if they because they don't necessarily have all of their documents together.
College campuses is not where most of the bad hombres are. Like, because people, everybody thought he was gonna be looking for the bad hombres. I don't think most of the bad hombres is at somebody's college campus. It might be enough of them in the jail that go ahead, just mess with that jail population or something like that. But for you to just be rolling up on people college campuses looking for a whole bunch of bad hombres to deport, dude, like, come on now. I don't get it. Like, it don't make no sense to me. Like,
I don't think anybody gets it, Sandra. And I think that it's getting to a point in less than 90 days that every thoughtful person is asking themselves, okay.
I don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah, because it goes from make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Make it make sense so that those that are, I'm not going to say those that think about immigration on a balanced level, but those that are concerned about the direction of the country can actually say, you know what? Okay, I see where you're going. Nowadays, everybody's just like, where are we going?
Mm.
Where?
So
Kote nou
the
prale?
the history of education in America has been using institutions of higher learning or even just institutions of education to police people. This
Mhm.
is like the history of the US. They use it to police people, right? Because why? Especially in college, that's where young adults are finding their voice.
Mhm.
They're finding their issue, they're fighting for their causes. That's where they're learning to accept one another. Like they're no longer being spoon-fed information in college. That's where they're researching and they're learning and they're finding out things and they're like, this don't sound right. And they're speaking up and they're speaking out. And so that is where the threat is. The threat of the mind is so much powerful than any other threats because these are the young leaders of tomorrow and they're going to rise up and they're going to actually make a difference. So if you can go there and you can scare them and you can stop them and you can stifle their voice and stifle their growth, then you can be able to sort of create your own narrative in the future of what equality looks like or what justice looks like or what free speech looks like. You can sort of control the narrative because now you're controlling the people in these institutions. So this is all strategic and this has always been the case. This is where they go to find they find those that are learning about things on their own, that they don't just look to the media for their answers. They're actually going in and doing the research and finding these things out for themselves. So I mean, this is part of history, right?
Yeah,
When
I agree with
when
that. I
when
agree with that.
Dr. King did the march over the bridge, it was after he first put the students to go over the bridge first. The students went over the bridge and the police beat up the students, right? Students are always being it's like, oh, they're the
Yeah, they're
sacrificial
the
lamb.
revolutionaries. Yeah, a lot of it, yeah, it starts there. Most revolutions start with students, with young folks, right? They're young folks. Yeah, a lot of it starts with young folks. So yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing that they're doing on the student side, dealing with university level students, is that they're canceling student visas. And they're just canceling the student visas. They're just like, nope, sorry, you can't study here no more. Get on the plane, go back to wherever you came from, or they'll detain you, right? Like, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're out here just detaining folks and sending them back. They're just canceling their visas. And then it's arbitrary and capricious, meaning like it's not supposed to happen. That ain't how that works, and they're just doing that. I'll make that point and I'll make another point, and you guys can talk about that too, is that so they tried to tell Harvard, tell us your DEI stuff, show us that you're rolling back. And Harvard was like, we don't need your this, we're gonna keep your funding. Harvard like, we don't care, we got billions of dollars. They're like, all right, then we're not gonna issue no more student visas. So now we gotta see if Harvard's gonna blink what they're going to do, because they're basically saying that we're not going to allow you to accept any international students because we're not going to issue any visas, right? So that's what the administration is saying. Let's see how Harvard responds, because I think if Harvard folds, all the rest of them are going to fold too, because that's the school with the biggest endowment. So let's see what they say. But we need to look at that. It's like, what did this president get elected for? Did he get elected to do anything for
To
people?
bully.
Or did,
To
okay.
bully.
All
That's
right.
it. They
I'm done.
wanted him to bully.
Bali.
He's a bully. He's a giant bully, and that's all he wants to do. And he wants to show people his power because he wants to be a dictator, right? And the thing about dictators is that they're people. The people in their land are afraid of them. So he wants you to be afraid of him, and so he wants to show off and show that he gets the final say. I hope Harvard stands their ground. I hope to God that they do not budge and they do not waver, because when I said I was shocked, I was so shocked, but I was so excited to see that someone with money is standing up and setting the precedence for everybody else. Say, no, 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 we don't have to take this, and we don't need to let anybody bully us, especially not the commander in chief.
right? And for me, just to add to that, like, say they don't issue temporary visas for students. I mean, I don't know, it might cost the school money, but this is temporary, right? Like, ultimately, he really not supposed to be here after 2029, right? Like, I mean, ultimately, now if y'all keep letting him do what he want to do, he may actually be here longer than that, right? So this is at this point where, you know what, we're gonna have to suffer a little bit. We probably won't have international students for the next 2-3 years, and I think it really only needs to be until about 2026, because what I said yesterday on my show was like, let me tell y'all something. All 218 Republican House of Representative members, they all need to lose their job, because they weren't doing nothing the last session, because I don't know if they passed any bills. They all need to lose their job, even if they replace them with another Republican or whatever, but them clowns should not be allowed to go back, right? So Harvard, hold out, invest in, some other folks running against these idiots that's letting this man do all of this stuff. Make sure Mike Johnson's not the Speaker of the House during the next session in 2026, and it's gonna be all right, right? Because the minute someone's really ready to stand up to him, this is not gonna happen. Because first of all, he's the executive branch of government, not the legislative branch of government, and you guys allowing him to legislate. Like, so if the elected officials are allowing someone who wasn't given his job to legislate, then that sounds like they don't need to have the jobs that they have, because they're not even doing that. Okay, so at this point, Harvard, please hold your ground, stand out, be like, F that. Okay, we won't have students for 2 years, and get all 218 of them need to lose their job. That's the end of that. That's my take.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of energy. I started a movement called It's Time, and I go live and I get people to sign up, and that's for that very reason. So what we're doing is we're collecting information, we're collecting data for people that are willing to help us flip seats, and all throughout the country. And we have people pouring in and just sort of jumping onto this moment. Why? Because it's time. It's time for them to go. They've got to go.
And at this point, even if you don't flip the seat, let them people go. Like, somebody else, primary every single one of them, 218, primary every single one of them, because they're not doing the job that they were sent to do. This is nonsense. Those people cutting your Medicaid, Medicare, letting this man pass executive orders, which is not how it really supposed to work. So they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Republicans, go run against these clowns, okay? Because by the time their time comes, everybody gonna be sick of them, because it's us today, because I'm here wearing my Haiti shirt. It's us today. It's gonna be y'all tomorrow. Because if you don't realize it, everybody could get it with this administration. Everybody could get it. Nobody's protected. Farmers, they're losing their farm. Business owners, like, I can't afford my businesses because of the tariffs. Everybody getting it. So eggs, and I'm gonna make a side note on the eggs, right? So everybody over here can't afford eggs, and apparently this man is about to have an Easter egg hunt at the White House with 30,000 real eggs, not no joke fake eggs. Real eggs. Now, if that story is like fake news, then I apologize for spreading misinformation. But what I read was that this man is really about to go use 30,000 real eggs for an Easter egg hunt at the White House, where people over here can't get no huevos. Really?
This man is so out of touch with reality. And
let's hope that this story is fake news, and let's just hope that it's fake news,
because it would be really sad, embarrassing, and disrespectful to just lay out a bunch of eggs that are super expensive and say, hey, go hunt for them, go look for them, go bring them home to your mommy, because I know she can't afford them. Like,
I mean, Christine, I hope that's not the I hope that's not the thought of it, but 30,000 real eggs.
I'm about to eat the egg that was in the bushes, even though it had a shell on it. I don't know if I'm doing that.
30,000 real eggs. Okay,
that's a waste of real eggs.
All right, ladies, let's. And then, this is what I said earlier. I think that people who want to see this country move forward and who wants to see this country successful. I think that, there's many things that are going on right now that we can say, okay, this makes sense. But right now, in less than 90 days, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense, right? And I'd like to believe that I'm one for the kumbaya, all right, you're part of this party, you're part of that party. We whether you voted for the person or not, they're elected, they're the leader, let's go, right? I tend to want to go in that direction because I like unity. I like working together. One of the great things that I like in my city where I live, you have state representatives that are you have a state representative that is Republican, you have state representatives that are Democrat, and seemingly we can all be in a room and we can talk about the issues. And I know personally, I can call my Republican state rep whatever I need, like literally he'll pick up the phone, right? And that is really great to
Okay,
have.
hold on though, Tunde. So you might be able to call him, but when he take his butt to Tallahassee, how he votes is what matters.
But you know what?
But let's talk about that part.
No.
I want to know that you got his number. I want to know what he does when he goes to Tallahassee when it's time to vote.
You are absolutely correct. How the person votes and what is their priority is very big. For what I'm specifically talking about is being able to bring initiatives to both Republicans and Democrats that are going to don't roll your eyes, Sandra. That's going to.
Oh, my face talking. I'm sorry. It wasn't.
That's going to better our community. Is where we're supposed to be at, right? Tallahassee is supposed to be a place where the best idea wins, right? Whether it's a Republican, Democrat. I would like to be. Look at Sandra's face. I would like. That's the environment.
I'm good.
Yeah. That's the environment that I would like to be in, because especially when you have a legislator that's, majority Republicans, you want to be in a situation where no matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat that's bringing something, we can do what is best for the state. We can do what is best for our community. I think right now at this juncture, even people like me who are focused on unifying and having one vision and going with that one vision, you're losing us. It's just like, okay, it just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And when it doesn't make sense and it's costing people's dollars and cents.
I mean, it's not just that they're losing us. It's gone. It's done. It's over. There is no unity. And I mean, for us to go to a place where there is unity, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take new leadership, new mindset. Just like Sandra said, like we're going to have to replace the Republicans because everybody is just so narrow-minded, right? There's no more working together, working across the aisle. Those days are done. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to pivot to our recap of what we talked about last week and some of the victories.
Don't pivot yet, because I want to make a point on what you're saying. Because what Christine is saying is true. Because the reality is, right, until folks, and I'm gonna have to say white people, accept the truth about why they're okay with what's happening, why they made the decision to vote the way they did in November, we ain't going nowhere, right? Because I know the truth hurts, right? I had to accept some things about certain relationships I was in. It was painful, but I had to accept the truth in order for me to move on, right? So until they accept the truth about themselves, about why it is they voted that way, and you ain't got to come and make no public, like I publicly declare that this is why I did this. You can do that privately, but the reality is that you're going to have to do that. You need to do that. And until people accept the truth about why they voted the way they voted in November, they could come out here and do all the lip service that they want. It's nothing's going to change, because you got to accept why you did that, why you made that decision. Even if you know you made the wrong one, you still got to come to grips and understand why it is that you made that decision in November, knowing all the things you know, right? Knowing all the things you know, because there was a whole bunch of information then, right? And knowing all the things you knew in November, you made that decision. So until you come to grips on why you truly did that, there is no moving forward. Because the responsibility is not on everybody else. Them folks that made that decision got to come to grips on why they did that. And then we get to a place where we can start having some for real conversation and moving forward as community.
But Sandra, I have to say, as a Democrat who was a member of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, I have to also say that some of the issues that we as Democrats were championing did not help us. So while I agree, you hold people accountable for their decisions and who they voted for, I also believe that as a party, we need to start focusing on things that matter and focusing on not the minority issues, right? But the majority issues, meaning the issues that the majority of us are really concerned about, as opposed to the one or two minority issues that's not my cause.
And let me tell you, I absolutely agree with you. And I owe you guys a phone call, because we need to have a dirty laundry session, because there's a lot of things I want to say, but I'm not going to say it publicly, because too many people got to get dragged in order for us to really have like a come to Jesus moment too. Because I totally agree that the party made a whole bunch of mistakes. They continue to make those mistakes, and we do need to have a conversation. But I'm just like, I don't want to have that conversation publicly, because we really need to have that private conversation, and those folks got to come to grips with a whole bunch of stuff too. I totally agree with you, and I really wanted to have a talk, because we do need to have a space where the people that need to get dragged gonna get dragged, and then we're gonna move on and really and we're gonna really come up with a plan and the issues that's really are winnable issues for the party, right? They're really, but we that needs to be private, because some people got to get their feelings hurt.
And one of the things I love about you, Sandra, is that I believe that you tend to look at things objectively, and what you believe in, and you're gonna nail it down. But at the same time, you're gonna call a spade a spade. And one of my biggest issues with the party, and I must say, last election cycle, I may had not necessarily been party oriented in that sense, because I was running in a race which was a nonpartisan seat, and so I was focusing on the needs of my entire city, no matter what your party was. But I do believe that those who are leading need to take responsibility for the issues that they put in the forefront, and how these issues cause fractions within the party, right? And these fractions ultimately lead to these type of numbers, because at the end of the day, Trump did not become president without votes, right? He got votes. And so there are individuals that, for whatever reason, whether they were within the party or outside of the party or independents, they felt that, based on where the Democrats are going, I'm not trying to go there, right? And if I'm not trying to go there, I'm not going to, not vote. So I'm going to, and I hate using the term the lesser of two evils, because I hate that, but that's what some people put in their mind. And I think that the only way we're going to come out of this stage of the lesser of two evils is when you have a party that, number one, acts like the big tent party, and number two, champions the issues that the majority of us really are passionate about and want to move forward.
So people didn't even vote for the lesser of the two evils. The couch won. The couch absolutely won. And these are not my words, so I'm taking this from something that I heard. And I'm like, it's absolutely true. Because more voters stayed home than voted for either one of those two candidates, right? So like if one got 33 million, the other one got 34 million, the couch got about 36 million. So at the end of the day, people didn't even decide to vote on the lesser of the two evils. The couch won. They stayed home. They're like, I can't do it. And I know people who voted, who actually went and voted and just wrote in any old name for the president because they wouldn't. I know folks who wrote in any old name for the Senate seat because they did not want to vote for Mercosur Powell. I personally know people who did that. So So even the people who went and voted, they voted on those other issues, and they went in there and they just they put Donald Duck for president and Minnie Mouse for Senate or something like that. You know what I mean? They went in there and voted and didn't vote for either one of them. So a lot of folks didn't even choose the lesser of the two evils. They just were like, screw both of them. You know,
They chose Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and, you know, whoever, Pluto and all them people.
Okay, but
Hey,
let's
not
just say
Pluto.
this.
Barney, they did Barney, whoever's at the circus, like they just
So let's
Pluto.
just say
everybody
this.
but those folks that was on the ballot.
I was talking to my dad yesterday, and he said something very interesting to me. He said, you know, it all of this is really terrible, but you know, we needed this shakeup because I'm telling you, the next election, the couch will not win.
No,
The couch
the
will
couch
not
ain't gonna
win.
win for real. It's gonna be on and popping.
It's on
It's
and
on and popping
popping.
for real. It's on and
It's on
popping.
like Donkey Kong, like we used to say as
What? Let me
kids.
tell
It's on
you.
like Donkey
It's
Kong.
on and popping for real. They thought 2018 was wild because remember 2018 was
Yes.
people just came out like on a vengeance in 2018. Listen, 26 ain't gonna be no joke. Like
No joke.
seriously, yeah, it
And
ain't
I'm
gonna be no
so
joke.
excited for it. I think that we're going to see new leaders rise, and I think that this is going to be the moment. We have like our great awakening. This is our great awakening, and what we do in this next 18 months is going to completely change the trajectory of our country in a
Mhm.
positive way. So I'm really
So,
excited.
so this is our version of Reconstruction.
Yes, this is it.
Okay. Okay, let's see what happens. But you wanted to pivot because we got to wrap up. We about to
Yes.
hit 8 o'clock. So tell us your pivot and then we'll wind
No,
down here.
hello, we have a huge celebration here, and I think that this also goes to show like when I want to give credit where credit is due. Last week, Sandra, you said that you have seen in history that right in the last minute something happens that when the migrants were facing a judgment like was so grave like this, right in the last minute something happens and it allows them to stay
Mhm.
or reverses course.
Yeah.
And you are so right, and that's why it's so important to have experts in the field that have had this experience, because many of us, we didn't see that any of this was possible. But shout out to the Haitian Bridge Alliance, and to those in Boston that went out and fought, making this lawsuit a class action lawsuit, so that everyone that is affected by Trump's immediate orders to self-deport, now
Mhm.
they all get to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the Haitian, the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan program. They put the judge was like, yeah, go sit down. You can't do that. Right. So all of that happened. Yeah. So they're doing good work. Innovation laws. There's a whole bunch of people that's doing a lot of good work on that front. And we're starting to see it. Right. And I also said about how they start, they come out with all this energy and a lot of it is not sustainable. They're slowly realizing that it's not sustainable, because one of the other things Mr. Mann came out and said last week is that, we're going to create a program for farmers and construction workers to give them status in order for them to, be able to be legal in the United States. Because his farm friends, all the, I was gonna say plantation owners and stuff like that. That ain't a nice way to say it, but they ain't nothing but plantation owners, okay? They call themselves farmers, but yeah, the ones that own the plantation and all of these big construction companies that's trying to build stuff, that people can't afford. They're like, but where our workers at, right? I got to get my roof done in a couple of months. And I asked the man, I'm like, you got staff? And he was like, we have in-house. I'm like, are you sure? Because I want to know who's going to come do my roof. Okay, so we're going to see what happened with that. So, so Mr. Man is already realizing that his policies are problematic, and it's problematic for his friends with a whole bunch of money. And so he's reversing course, and they're going to probably pass some laws to allow those people. Like in the 80s, they had this green card called Jardin. It was a farm workers green card program that a whole bunch of, they probably going to bring out that Jardin program. It was a Republican that did that, and they're going to do something similar. And I think they're going to do something on the construction side. So you go send all them people back if you want to, but you're going to bring them back with green cards.
So one of the things that I don't know if I mentioned it on the first show, but I've spoken about it, is when you look at what Reagan did,
Mm-hmm.
it really was a game changer. And
yeah, Reagan gave me my green card.
I know.
I got my green card from Reagan. I sure did.
So, and he was a Republican. And so this
Yep.
is why I
Mhm.
try to, want to be on the unity side,
Mhm.
because at some point you may have a leader who, whether it's economics, or whether it's their heart, or whether it's those that have influence over them, that leads them into a direction that ultimately benefits everybody, and
Mhm.
the whole group is okay. And when I say the group, I mean those that are in need, right? Whether you're Cuban, Nicaraguan, Haitian, but we all get a piece of the pie.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's what I've been praying for. I'm just hoping that out of this um, smoke, right? And all of this turmoil and all of this upside down craziness, that there comes a moment where we all get something. And it's not that it was worth it, but it's just like, okay, God, it's over. We can
Yeah.
all breathe.
It's
Now,
over.
whether or not our current our current leaders are going to be closer to this in the beginning of the term than the end of the term, right? We don't know, but I do love having that sense of hope that there is something that can be done, and people who genuinely want a new start, and want to be in a place of safety, as opposed to being in a country like Haiti where things are just upside down. We're just praying that they get that opportunity. And I'm hoping that, God willing, it happens on this administration, that there can be a come to Jesus moment, and where we can actually look forward for the remainder of the administration with less turmoil. I think that everybody
These people
is.
don't know Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You don't see him with the Bible in front of the place
They
in
gonna have a
DC the
Listen,
come.
last
listen,
time.
listen,
They
He had
listen,
a
have a
lot
come
of
to
people.
Jesus moment.
listen.
He has a lot of people.
Somebody
It was
does
upside
not
down, but he had one.
Somebody does not need to know the Lord Jesus for him to use them. Okay, guys? I mean,
Yeah, I
there are
know. They use him all
countless,
the time. They use him to manipulate people to voting for them. I know. They know how to use him.
there are
Is it the right
countless,
way though?
there are countless biblical figures that had nothing to do with the Lord, that had no relationship with the Lord, and God literally utilized them in different ways, and it was for the greater good. So I
Like
know that
Judas.
he can do it. And like I stated, I'm not prophesying that it's going to be this administration, but we know that it is possible. We know that Reagan, who was a Republican, did bring about reform that many people benefited from. My own mom, you understand, my grandmother, my grandmother probably with Jade, you
Mhm.
understand. And so I know a lot of people that were able to benefit, and so we know it's possible. I think that fighting, keeping the resistance, having good lawyers, having good advocates, and good organizations on the front line, I think extends hope. And we definitely should stay on that line until we see what we're all looking for, which is something that benefits the entire group.
And I have to say I'm gonna agree with you on that, just because I am one of those people that walk by faith and not by sight. So because of that, I'm gonna receive what you said, Dr. Blamura, because I do walk by faith and not by sight. All right, because God can do all things. So I'm gonna receive what you said because of that. I stand on that, believing in walking by faith and not by sight. So I'm gonna receive what you just said.
Because, child, if you look at sight, where everybody, listen, whether you are American or not, everybody needs to pack their bags and go. Because somehow, some way, something's coming down the line that's just not going to be good for you.
I'm walking by faith, all right, not by sight. All right, so we got to wrap this up, ladies. And so we only got through half of the crazy immigration stuff that's going on, right? And so we're gonna come back to that next week. And then now we're gonna come back to that next week. But then the other thing we're gonna do is it's probably gonna be some more stuff that happened that we got to add to the list of things to talk about. So that's why we've made this a permanent.
But for now, we want to tell Pukunya nous voulons dire tout le monde qui t'a ton on signe que bagay yo pas privé bagay yo pas
You're
aggravé.
muted.
No, I can hear her. I can
Okay.
hear her.
So
yeah.
for now,
Okay.
pour tout le monde qui tap ton pour wè si bagay yo pa changer, for everybody who is waiting to see if things are going to change, we do have a small, it's like Elijah, right?
No,
We have a small ray of hope, right, for the judge who stated, no, I definitely don't believe that this is the direction we should be going into. So hopefully God will touch the congressmen, the senators up in Washington, and maybe this could
they all about to lose their job.
Yeah, maybe this could be the next biggest reform since Reagan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is, and I know people are going to be looking at me like, oh God, here we go, Naomi. This is what I love about what God can do, right? God can literally come into a situation where all hell is breaking loose and everybody is not pleased. And then in that moment, he does one thing where had it not been for the Lord who was on our side, we would have been done.
Okay, Pastor. Okay, let's give Christine her last word.
Good.
Okay, Pastor. All right, Christine, close us out, and then we're going to wrap up the show, and I'll see you ladies again next week. Go ahead, Christine.
I just want to close out by saying this. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
okay. I don't know what's going on, but I couldn't hear a word Naomi said. It's on mute, but yes, okay. I'm glad you can hear me. I just want to close out by saying this. A week ago, we were thinking that we were going to have to figure out, we would have 2 weeks to get everybody on a plane into Canada.
Right.
We didn't even know what was happening. Things are changing every single day. So number one, don't give up. Don't give up hope. And always know that even if it doesn't seem like it right now, there are people working on your behalf that you don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know. It's like that saying where they say, you got to have friends that are speaking your name in rooms that you're not in. Yeah. That's the same thing that's happening right now. There are people fighting for you that you will never see, you will never meet. You don't even know that they're doing it. But just hold on to that hope that we're not going to just let things go down like this, not with this administration and not with this energy. We are here to fight and we are here to win. And that is what we're doing. So thank you so much for having us again. And thank you for sharing us with your audience.
We're going to keep this energy up.
I think that this conversation has been healthy.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, ladies. I got to go. All right, then. Y'all going to see me at another show. Go to Westside Gazette, 2-minute warning. I'll be on that show in a couple minutes. I'm actually running late, but I'm headed over there. All right.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
Elections have consequences.